Lois was flying high after a half marathon in the fall. She'd recently retired and now she was running more than ever and she was loving it. But then everything changed. She went on a cruise and she was dancing the night away and she planted her foot. She twisted her knee a bit and it just gave out underneath her. And now it had been 6 months since she'd been able to run. After a little while in PT, she went to the doctor and asked to get an MRI, which they did. And when the results came back, her heart sank. She said they told her she had a meniscal tear and arthritis in the knee. Now, Lois loves hiking almost as much as running, and she had a hiking trip to Algonquin Park planned for the fall with her friend that they do every year, and she had to cancel that. And as for the 10K that she was hoping to run in a few months, she didn't feel like there was any hope at all about doing that. And she'd been doing her PT exercises every single day, and she could feel her leg getting stronger. But she was 6 months out of running now, and she wasn't feeling like she was making any progress to getting back to actually running. It still hurt every single time she ran. And that's why she reached out to me. She was at a point where she was feeling really hopeless. And she said, "What the heck is going on? Why is it not getting better?" And I could definitely relate. I have heard this story hundreds of times. You hurt your knee or something else, and you think, "I'm going to go to PT and do the exercises for a few weeks and then slowly get back into running." So you go and you do that, but then in a few weeks when it's calmed down and it's not hurting when you're walking anymore, you try to run and it still hurts. So you rest a few more weeks, you keep doing your exercises, you keep doing PT, and then again you try and run and the same thing happens. And then you do it again and again, and the cycle just repeats until months have passed and you're still no closer to running. And when we spoke on the phone, I explained to Lois that all of this rest from running over the last 6 months had just let the structures of the knee get weaker and weaker. The joint cartilage, the ligaments, the bones, the tendons, all of those things are living structures, living tissues, and they need the stress to adapt to running. When you're not putting that stress on them, when you're not running, when you're not pounding on them, there's no stimulus for them to adapt, and they just get weaker and weaker and weaker. And I told her that it was time to start running again. But on that first call, she was still very nervous about doing that. And she decided to give it a few more weeks and keep doing the exercises and work a little harder on those to see if she could make progress without starting to run on it while it was still painful. But then when we spoke again a few weeks later, she was feeling really frustrated because she'd worked really hard over the previous few weeks and she could feel the muscles of her legs getting much stronger. She remembered in particular her single leg deadlift and the star balance. They felt strong. They felt rock solid, much more strong than they used to feel, but still, if she tried to run, it just hurt her knee immediately. And even now, it was painful going up and down stairs and just moving around the house. And Lois, over these last few months, had been doing a fantastic job of building the muscles, which is an incredibly important part of recovering from knee pain with running. However, it is not the only part. As I say, there are three critical components when it comes to getting back to running and to pain-free running. It's building the muscles, strengthening the structures, and refining the biomechanics. And in this case, strengthening the structures was just as important as building the muscles, and that's the part that she hadn't been doing. The only way to strengthen the structures of the knee to tolerate running was to run. So if Lois wanted to run, she was going to have to run, even if it was painful at first. Running is the rehab. She had to confront the pain and not run through the pain, but learn to train with the pain. So we started with just a few minutes of run walking, and then very, very slowly each week added a little bit more running to those walk runs. Now, progress was very slow, and Lois was very nervous, but she understood the rationale. She understood that this was a process by which she would strengthen the structures of her knee, and that would take time. And she was starting to see small improvements within a few weeks. She could run a little bit more with a little less pain. And by the end of the first month, she was able to walk for 30 minutes with only green light pain. And this is an important part, that even after a month, Lois still had pain on every single run, but it was green light pain. And green light means keep going. And another month after that, after continuing that same process of very slowly and steadily increasing the load on the knees to strengthen the structures, she was able to run 30 minutes continuously now, again with green light pain. Now, over the next month, Lois actually wasn't as consistent with her training as usual. However, she was, by the end of that following month, still able to run continuously for 30 minutes with just green light pain. So we decided in the subsequent month to add a little bit of fartlek running. So that's some intervals in zones 3 and 4 rather than just zones 1 and 2. And we also decided to try and stretch out her long run on the Sunday over 30 minutes, up to 45 and maybe 60. All the while, we monitored the pain response of the knee continuously. So green light pain kept going. Orange means continue but go carefully. And red light means we're doing too much and we need to change the plan. Now, that went reasonably well that month. But again, for the second month, Lois had been a little inconsistent in her training compared to the first couple of months where she'd hit every single workout. So we had a chat about it. And she shared with me that she was just feeling really frustrated. She was 4 months into working with us now, and she still had pain on every single run. Now, of course, she was frustrated. She had rested from running for 6 months and not being able to run at all. And now 4 months into working with us, it still hurt when she ran. But I asked her, how much could you run 6 months ago? And she said, not at all. I wasn't running at all. And I said, you had pain when you walked, right? Too? And she said, yeah, that's right. And then I said, well, how much are you running now? And she said, I can run about 45 minutes for my long run. And I asked her if it still hurt when she was walking around and going up and down stairs. And she said, no. And this really cheered her up. Like, I hadn't done anything particularly clever other than just like go through her training and see how it had gone and then get her to reflect on where she was and where she is now. And once she saw that she'd made quite a lot of progress, she started to feel a lot better about the future. And this is the key point here. Running injuries take months, not weeks. Lois was on the right track. She just had to keep going. So that's when she really knuckled down. And in the following training block, she hit every single one of our workouts, both running and strength. And that's when she really started to see the needle move. She was able to run a bit further, a bit faster, with less knee pain every single run, every single week. We started to see the weekly mileage creep up as she was accumulating that across the different runs of the week. The structures of the knee were adapting to the training. They were adapting to the stimulus. All of that pounding, right? That's the stimulus that the knees were adapting to. They were becoming less sensitive and more resilient. And by the end of the following month, Lois was finally logging a few pain-free runs, not all of them, but some of the runs she had no knee pain at all by the end of that following month. And because Lois was starting to feel better and she could really see the progress now, she decided that she was ready to start planning for a race. So she's scheduled to do a 10K race in the spring. And this is where, when we're working with our athletes, the fun really starts, because now we're moving out of everything and being about the pain and responding to the pain and getting in the adaptive zone and moving into some actual training. So we got Lois to do a 20-minute test where we calibrated her zones so we knew what her pace and heart rate zones were. And then we started dosing in some faster workouts. So we got her to do some zone 4 threshold intervals. And these did a couple of things. The first thing that they do would help with her conditioning, because she'd been out of running for so long now. To do a 10K, she was going to have to get fitter. So they help with that. But also, getting her to run faster for longer periods of time is a heavier stimulus, a heavier mechanical stimulus on the knee. So we were, again, increasing the stress we placed on the knee as it adapts within its adaptive zone to encourage it to adapt more, to become more resilient, less sensitive. And what's really important here is that we titrated the dose of those intervals and how often we had them each week and how many intervals we did to exactly where we thought her knee could handle, not higher, not lower, the adaptive zone, right? And then we monitored how it went. So she would leave a pain and injury report on every single run, and we would be able to look at how those zone 4 intervals were tolerated by the knee. So we would know if we needed to adjust up or adjust down in real time. And we know if we're in the adaptive zone because of the pain traffic lights. So if she was getting green light pain, we were good, we would keep going. And if she was getting orange light pain, we would continue, but cautiously. And if she was getting red light pain, we knew the plan for the following week had to change. And by the end of that block, it was time for the race. And she absolutely crushed it. She had a great race. She had a wonderful day. And the best part of it was she had absolutely no knee pain at all on race day. And I wanted to share Lois's story to illustrate a really important part. And that's that it took 16 months from the day Lois hurt her knee on that cruise until the day she ran that 10K pain-free again. That's 16 months to get past that knee injury. Running injuries can be extremely stubborn sometimes with many setbacks along the way, but that you can make progress. You've just got to look at the way you measure it. We want to think months, not weeks. You can get back to running as much as you want, as long as you're following a proven process that's going to work and you're seeing progress month on month. Ask yourself, how much could I run last month and how much did it hurt? And then compare it with, how much can I run this month and how much does it hurt now? And you should always see that you can run a little bit more and it hurts a little bit less each month. When you see that trend, you're doing the right stuff and you just need to keep going. If you're not seeing that trend, if you can run a little bit less and it hurts a bit more, then you're heading in the wrong direction and what you're doing is not working. Another nuance to that is that if you can run more, but it hurts the same amount, you're probably on the right track. That was the case with Lois for the first few months. Her pain wasn't changing with each run, but the amount that she could run to produce the same amount of pain was changing. It was increasing. However, if you're noticing that the pain is about the same each run, but you're running less and less miles each month, then you're on the wrong track. So if the pain's staying the same, but you can run more, you're doing the right kind of stuff. If the pain's staying the same, but you're having to run less, you're on the wrong track. And I'm really happy to share Lois' story here because she was heading down a bad path into a life without running and maybe without hiking too. When we met, she felt stuck, frustrated, hopeless, and no closer to getting back to running. And now she's running 10Ks pain-free, and that hiking trip to Algonquin, she's already booked that for the fall. And oh yeah, she's booked a half marathon too, and we're going to help her get set for that in the fall as well. So congratulations, Lois. It has been a long road back to running for you, but your commitment is an inspiration for all of us. And we're really happy to help you prepare for that half marathon. And I'm sure you're going to do equally as well. And Lois was kind enough not only to let me share her story in this video, but also the training block descriptions that we share with our athletes. So every month we'll look back over the previous month and we'll plan the next month. That's how we do our training blocks. And we'll share a screen share where we'll review what they did and how it went and what we have planned for them for the following month and why. And this is a really nice way. If you click the link in the description, you can see all of those because you can see each month Lois's progress as I've described it here and what we did and why we were thinking to do it in that way. So it's a really nice way to get a snapshot of, 6 or 7 months of training progress back from injury, but in a very short period of time. So you can see Lois's journey and all the setbacks along the way through until we're planning the race for her. So just click the link in the description to watch the training block videos that I was just talking about. And if you're stuck with your running injury and you're not seeing that trend that I talked about, you're not seeing that each month you can run a little bit more with a little bit less pain. If you feel like you're stuck and you're not heading in the right direction, then we'd love to talk to you and see if we can help you the same way we did Lois. See if we can work out why you're not in the adaptive zone and why you're not able to run more each month. So just click the link in the description as always, book a free call and we'll have a chat about it and see what we might be able to do to help.